Leo shifted uneasily on the creaky wooden floor of his grandfather's attic, his flashlight beam slicing through the dense gloom. Dust motes danced lazily in a faint shaft of sunlight filtering through a cracked window. The scent of aged wood and mothballs hung heavy in the air, surrounding him like a relic of the past. The attic was a labyrinth of dusty boxes, forgotten trinkets, and old furniture, each piece a fragment of a life now past. Despite the clutter and eerie quiet, Leo couldn't suppress a faint ripple of excitement. Somewhere amidst this mess lay answers, stories left untold by Grandpa Tom. It had been a week since Grandpa Tom's funeral, and the loss weighed heavily on Leo. His grandfather had been more than a family elder. He was a keeper of fantastical tales, weaving stories that blurred the line between reality and imagination. In the last year of his life, as Alzheimer's eroded his memory, Tom's stories had grown increasingly bizarre. Tales of daring escapes, shadowy figures, and coded messages spilled from his lips, dismissed by most of the family as fabrications of a deteriorating mind. But Leo, the ever-curious grandson, couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to these stories than they appeared. "Leo, what's taking so long?" his little sister Gigi called from below, her voice bright with impatience. At just 4 years old, Gigi had been Grandpa Tom's most enthusiastic audience. She believed every word of his wild tales, accepting them with the unflinching faith of a child. Unlike the adults, she never questioned their authenticity. "Hang on, Gigi," Leo replied, maneuvering through the maze of boxes. "I'm looking for something important." He didn't know what he was searching for, but the nagging feeling in his chest wouldn't let him leave. Each trunk he opened revealed yellowed maps, faded photographs, and odd trinkets, pieces of a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. His mother had tasked him with sorting through Tom's belongings, but even she seemed overwhelmed by the sheer volume. Earlier that day she had sifted through his bedroom, shaking her head at the strange artifacts and photographs of unknown people. "Your grandfather collected the oddest things," she'd muttered. "I never really understood him." For Leo, the attic was where the real mystery lay. He reached a corner of the room where a heavy, dust-covered box caught his eye. Unlike the others, this box was wooden, its surface worn smooth by time. A small, intricate lock adorned the front, its craftsmanship unmistakably deliberate. The sight of it sent a shiver down Leo's spine. Why would Grandpa Tom lock this box? What secrets could be so important that they needed to be hidden away? "What are you doing?" Gigi's voice interrupted his thoughts as her head poked through the attic hatch. She clutched one of Grandpa Tom's old toys, a wooden airplane he had carved decades ago. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I found something," Leo said, his voice trembling slightly, "but I need to figure out how to open it." "Maybe there's a key," Gigi suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. Leo nodded, his mind racing. Grandpa Tom had been meticulous about his belongings. If the box had a lock, the key had to be nearby. His eyes scanned the room, landing on a crooked painting hanging on the sloped attic wall. It seemed out of place, as though someone had intentionally positioned it there. Leo approached the painting, a simple landscape of a serene lake that Grandpa Tom often said reminded him of home. Carefully lifting the frame, he discovered a small compartment hidden behind it. Inside lay a heavy brass key, its surface dulled by age. "Got it," he whispered, turning to Gigi. Her eyes widened with excitement as Leo knelt by the box and inserted the key into the lock. With a satisfying click, the lid creaked open, revealing a trove of secrets that seemed to hum with the weight of their importance. Inside the box were binders filled with documents, photographs, and handwritten notes. Leo's fingers trembled as he pulled out the first binder, its cover marked classified. Flipping through the pages, he found newspaper clippings, coded letters, and official-looking papers bearing government seals. A photograph slipped from the binder and fluttered to the floor. It showed a younger version of Grandpa Tom, standing beside a group of men in military uniforms. But something was off. The insignias weren't from any army Leo recognized. "What is it?" Gigi asked, sensing her brother's unease. Leo didn't answer immediately. He reached deeper into the box and pulled out a leather-bound journal. Opening it, he found detailed accounts of covert missions, surveillance operations, and diagrams of buildings and escape routes. The entries were written in Tom's unmistakable handwriting. "Grandpa wasn't just in the army," Leo said slowly, piecing it together. "He was a spy." "Like in the movies?" Gigi whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Leo nodded, his mind racing. The wild stories Grandpa Tom had shared about secret codes, dangerous missions, And encounters with double agents weren't the product of a failing mind. They were real. Among the papers was a folder labeled Top Secret. Inside were more photographs, some featuring unfamiliar faces with notes scribbled in the margins. Words like Target and Alley were scrawled beneath some images. One photo had been circled, the word traitor etched beside it. Leo's stomach churned as he realized the gravity of what he had uncovered. The rest of the day passed in a blur. When their mother returned to the attic, she found Leo and Gigi sitting silently beside the open box, their faces pale with shock. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Leo hesitated before handing her the journal. She flipped through it, her expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. Tears welled in her eyes as she absorbed the evidence of a life her father had never shared. "Why didn't he tell us?" she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. That night, the family gathered in the living room to discuss their discovery. The adults debated whether to inform the authorities. While the documents were decades old, some of the information seemed sensitive. "We can't just keep this to ourselves," Leo's mother insisted. "What if it's still important? What if there are people out there who need to know?" "But what about Grandpa's reputation?" Leo asked. "What if this changes how people see him?" "I don't know, Leo," his mother admitted. "But the truth matters. And your grandfather, he'd want us to do the right thing." In the following days, they contacted the authorities, who confirmed the authenticity of the documents. While much of what Grandpa Tom had done remained classified, they learned enough to understand the sacrifices he had made and the secrets he had to protect his loved ones. For Leo, the discovery was bittersweet. He had always admired his grandfather, but now that admiration was tinged with awe. Grandpa Tom wasn't just a storyteller, he was a hero. And though he hadn't lived to share the full truth, he had left behind a legacy that ensured his family would never forget him. In the weeks that followed, Leo often returned to the attic, sifting through the remnants of Tom's life. Each item told a story, and each story brought him closer to understanding the man behind the mystery. As he flipped through the journal one last time, he smiled, imagining Grandpa Tom's voice recounting his adventures. "Thanks for trusting me with your secrets, Pop," he whispered. "I won't let you down." The attic, once a place of dust and shadows, had become a sanctuary of memories, a place where the past came alive and whispered its truths to those willing to listen. For Leo, it was a reminder that even the most ordinary lives could hold extraordinary secrets.